Hey y'all, it is the first episode of season 4. I feel like I have not made a podcast in forever. But I'm so excited to be back. I am so excited for this season. I'm just so excited to continue to share my thoughts and opinions and to generate communication and insight from y'all. Like that's what's up. All right. But anyways, yeah, so what's up? How y'all doing? It's Mini Monty. Welcome to the Oasis 13 podcast. I hope everybody has been good. I ain't talked to y'all since the new year. I hope that went well for you. If you can't see or if you didn't watch my YouTube video, I started locks about 2 weeks ago, and I am loving the journey, man. This is just I love it. I love it. But I did make a video from when I first went natural to now, if you're interested in that. Um, but yeah, other than that, everything has been good. I started doing in-person events in my own community with a wonderful group called Tribe, which I'm also now a part of. And I am so excited for that because, like I said, I love them. I also did a podcast episode with two members from Tribe a while back. I'll link that somewhere so you could check that out. Um, but just to say, you know, just been doing what feels right to me. Been doing what feels right. Not stressing. Not stressing. I haven't really shared, but I started a business. Actually, I've been an independent contractor like full time for the last year, as well as I started my own business. I mean, an independent contractor, that's basically your own business, but I also started a separate business. And anything new is just a lot to figure out. But I haven't it has not been stressful. Like I just been like, well, if it's gonna work out, it's gonna work out. I haven't been I used to be the person to try to plan everything out. And while I still do make plans like on a daily basis, I no longer make long-term plans. You know, like I plan out my schedule on a day-to-day basis. So I don't get it that day, then I get it the next day or on a week to week. But I don't have like year goals any longer. I kind of feel like the years are based on the days. So there's no point in me planning out years ahead if my daily schedule does not align with that. And then also it's just you never know what can happen, you know? So I would rather plan on a day-to-day basis. And if something, changes or pops up that day, then I'm able to be flexible with it or switch up the day. But if you plan whole years in advance, that's kind of hard to just like that switch up that plan, and then also change that plan in your mind or let go of that plan. Okay. So that kind of ties in what we're talking about today, which is knowing when to move on and when to let go. And this is also something that I learned within the past couple of years, because my sun sign is a Taurus, which is very stubborn. My sun sign is a Taurus, moon sign Scorpio, rising Leo. I was told those are all like what is it called? It's not mutable, like stagnant. kind of. So they're all kind of stubborn in their own way, you know. Um, so you could imagine me with relationships. Sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to move on and let things go, even if physically I haven't talked to this person in such and such years and months. It still takes me a while to mentally understand that it wasn't what it used to be, which is why I am so apprehensive when it comes to my relationships because I put a lot into them. And I'm not one of those people who can just start new things and then, just chalk it up and go to the next. Like I can't, that's not me, you know? So yeah, knowing when to move on and when to let go, right? Um Again, so my experience, I want to talk about a personal relationship that I had. So, because again, if I had it my way, I would have the same people who I grew up with from childhood if it was my choice, right? But again, God was trying to teach me, like, you got to let that go. If it's not doing you good, let it go, right? Um, so somebody that I was very close with for some years. I wouldn't even say it was anything bad. It's just we both evolved as people, and as we evolved, it's like we just didn't fit in each other's lives anymore, you know? It was just that simple. And for me, again, I would prefer to keep the same people in my life because I put so much energy into relationships and I don't really like restarting that, like my deep meaningful relationships. Like I like to meet new people and whatever, like, you know, if I'm going somewhere, meet new people. That's like, oh, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. But that's not a real relationship, right? I'm talking about my deep, meaningful, like real people in my life. I don't really like that to change. So again, I was trying to hold on to this relationship just simply because of comfort, um, because of the amount of time I put in, because of the past, you know. But when I really started to think about the relationship between this person and I realized that it was more beneficial for me to move on. I realized that, again, the reason I was trying to stay in the relationship was, again, simply because of comfort and time, but the relationship was really never reciprocal. It really wasn't. Um it wasn't that healthy of a relationship. And it wasn't until I was kind of forced to take myself out of it that I was able to see that. And I was like, I didn't ever notice that, And again, like I said, if it wasn't for circumstances and situations, I still would have been in that, you know, just because it was comfortable. Like that's what I knew. You know what I mean? So in that situation, you do need to move on. Like it is more helpful to move on if you are staying in a relationship simply because of, again, comfort, because you're scared to move on, and maybe you scared that um like you're afraid of not finding better, or you're afraid of being by yourself, or you're afraid of opening up. Basically, anything that if you're doing it out of fear, right? If you're staying in a relationship out of fear, then it's actually time to let it go, right? If that is your base for staying in a relationship, for fear of anything, then you would need to let it go, right? Like if you are not, if when you, relationships help us grow, right? And what they say, some are for a long time. I don't know the daggone saying, but some are there for a short period and some are there for a long period. But throughout the whole period of that relationship, you should be growing, right? And it should be a healthy, beneficial relationship. And as soon as if you are in a relationship that is not healthy or beneficial to you, and you come to that conscious realization, don't make yourself feel bad for moving on from that, because this person has been in your life for such and such years, or this person is your family, or anything that we try to make ourselves believe for the sake of maintaining relationships, right? Um, all right, so I want to talk about a movie that I saw that really helped me, kind of break this down. So it is called Boxing Day. It's a movie on Amazon. I would highly recommend. But it is about, I think Boxing Day is the Christmas holiday in Canada or something like that. And so he was going back home um to his family in Canada. He had moved to America, became a famous writer, all that blah blah blah. And he got a oh, if you're gonna watch it, I'm gonna ruin it. I mean, you should still watch it. I don't think this is gonna mess up the feel of the movie, but I'm just letting you know I'm telling the story now. Okay. So again, so he became a famous writer, right? And he moved to America, met an amazing woman, and they're in a lovely relationship. Like he loves this girl. He wants to marry her. Um, and he actually proposed to her before they left. Um, and then, but what he forgot to tell her was that when he left home, he kind of left a relationship with somebody that he grew up with. Um, so the girl that he grew up with obviously knows his whole family. Both their families are close to each other. So when he came back home, it wasn't like he could just hide this past relationship. She was a part of the holiday with his family, right? And it was just interesting to see because obviously she was the old and the American girl was the new. And it was interesting to try to figure out which one he was going to choose, right? Um Now the story was, of course he loved the old girl. Like they have memories together. They they grew up together. Their families are already close. Like of course he loves her. Of course, right? He can't deny that. But he also loved the new girl, right? And so he had to make a choice. Are you going to go back to the old, what's familiar, what's comfortable, or are you going to start something new? And it was hard for him to let go of the old, right? Because again, like so many of us, we hold on to that for just like because it just feels so like comfortable, you know? So we hold on to that for whatever for so many reasons, like I had mentioned in my own situation. So we hold on to that. Um and sometimes not realizing that trying to hold on so hard is actually hurting us, right? I saw this picture of like a rope in hands, right? And it's like you're trying to hold on so hard and you end up hurting yourself. It was like the rope was creating this, you know, it was too tight. You trying to hold on to something so tight that you end up hurting yourself when it's just the reality that some relationships are only for a period of time. And it doesn't mean that you don't appreciate that person, that you don't love that person. It's just that when you realize that you have grown, when you when you realize that the relationship you guys are no longer feeding each other, right? Sometimes you have to let that go. And so what ended up happening is he did choose the new. And I thought that was a twist because usually people do go back to the old. That's usually what happens in the story. Like, oh, we grew up together really quickly, right? So, but again, like the old girlfriend ended up giving her blessing to his new relationship because she was like, yo, I could see that you really love her. And that's another thing that I want to speak to is like just because you love somebody doesn't mean that you guys are supposed to be together romantically. Sometimes you have to let that person go to even know if y'all are supposed to be together, because if you are, you're not going to have to keep trying to pull and force and push yourself on this person, right? It's gonna be like a mutual pull and pull, right? A pull and pull, a mutual push and pull of that relationship when you guys are both on the same in the same energies and y'all are, you kind of want the same things. It's not going to be either person is going to have to feel like they keep having to like, like, hey, I'm here, like, see me, like, oh my God, be with me. You shouldn't have to do that in any type of relationship, romantic or friendship, right? So yeah, I thought that was a good movie that showed um that the dynamic between going back to the old or you know opening yourself up to what's new. And there is no right or wrong answer, right? It's not like, because I know there are a lot of people, I know for me specifically, I am definitely one of those people who's like, I would never go back to an ex. I don't do that. And my only reason for that is because by the time you become my ex, by the time I have decided we are no longer beneficial in each other's lives, I have gave you ample amount of opportunities to show me something else. So by the time I've decided that, it's done. Like I don't there's no point for me personally going back because I've already tried that cycle, okay, of like, oh, let me see if it'll work like this. Oh, let me try to do it like this. Oh, So by the time I say, I'm done, it's done, right? But I don't want to put that idea in my head so much that I'm just saying that out of pride or ego, right? Because who knows? Like, I won't go back to any of my previous exes, but what if I meet somebody in the future and it's just different, right? I don't want to be so stubborn and so stuck in my ways that I end up not going back to that just because I have this idea of like, oh, I don't go back to exes, right? All right. So, another example that I want to bring up is insecure. Um, I'm a big insecure fan. I reference them a lot in my videos and my podcasts. I just think that they bring up so many good points when it relates to relationships. So we have two characters that had very different situations. So we have Molly and Issa. Okay. And again, I am going to spoil the ending. So if you haven't watched it, don't watch this. Um, but anyway, so within Molly's relationships, you can see that she never went back to an ex. She just learned what she had to learn and she moved on, right? Like, yeah, she thought about, oh, well, maybe I didn't do this correctly with such and such, or maybe I could have did this better with so and so. But she just took that as a lesson, right? And eventually she came into a relationship and ended up marrying this guy, right? At the end of it, which I loved for her. I was so excited about her story because I felt like it was genuine. Like that's what she needed, right? And I was just so excited from her for her growth, specifically, honestly. I feel like watching her growth from the beginning, like her just and again, it speaks to not trying to force things. Like she was trying so hard to be in a relationship when the person who she ended up marrying, she was working with the whole time, right? So, anyways, so that's one aspect. Molly was the character. She never went back. She learned her lesson. She moved on, and who she ended up moving on to at the end became her husband. And then we have Issa, which so many people were on the fence about her situation because again, we either have it's either two extremes. People who are like super, oh, I would never go back to an ex. You just need to move on and blah blah blah. We got people who are like, oh my god, but they were meant for each other and they had such a good connection. Right. And again, it's like it's neither is wrong or right because Issa did end up going back to Lawrence at the end. And again, that's her story, right? So who's to say that's wrong? Like that's just right for her, right? If they feel like they have learned the lessons that they needed to learn and now they can start over again together, then that's their business. If that works for them, you know, like I guess it all depends on intention, right? So if you are, I don't think your reason for not going back to somebody should just be because you never go back to exes. I don't think it should be a pride or ego thing, right? It should be because you feel like you have learned what you needed to learn from that situation or person, and now you're ready to move on to now you're ready to grow to the next, like you feel like you have grown past that person, or you have learned what you're meant to learn from that person. But if you're not going back just because you're like, oh, I don't go back to exes. And like I said, I'm one to say this. I am one to say this, but there's honestly, I don't see for my exes, I do feel like I have learned what I needed to learn from them. I don't feel like there is anything else to build from those relationships, right? And it also goes into, like I said, Molly ended up marrying somebody who she worked with. So they already had a base relationship. Even though they didn't really like each other in the beginning, they still had a base relationship of who each other were, right? And again, with Issa and Lawrence, they were also like really good friends, right? And so the point that I'm trying to make is, and it's not even just romantic relationships, because even some people have friends just because they don't want to be lonely, or just because they're trying to move on from an ex friend. Or I can only speak for like women friendships, but women friendships are like really, they're almost like relationships. So I'm sorry guys if you don't relate to this, but um it's very similar, and I think, in my opinion. So again, it's about the intention that you're doing things with. So if you're, the base of your relationship is starting again because you're trying to get over somebody else, or you don't want to be lonely, or you're insecure and this person is giving you that attention, so you're taking it, or any any other reason besides you genuinely feel connected with this person and want to build with this person as a friend first, right? And then possibly that turn into lovers if you guys are compatible, right? That is how it should start off. Like every relationship starts off, needs to have a solid foundation of intention when y'all are building something. Because I've definitely had friends in the past who, we weren't friends, but we were kind of using each other because we were lonely. I can remember there was a period in high school. My senior year was the absolute best and worst year of my life. Worst on the surface level, as far as I was very depressed, but best year, and as far as I transformed myself in that year. Um, but again, I was just having a transformative year, and I was realizing that the friends that I used to have, we weren't friends like we used to be, and I, we just didn't. I found that maybe it wasn't, they weren't the right friends for me. Not saying I didn't love them, or I didn't, it wasn't that. Like, I love them, I still love them to this day. It's just we didn't really like to do the same things. And for me, again, for my deep relationships, it is so hard for me to let go. Like, it is it's so difficult for me to let go after I really like build a strong connection with somebody, you know? So I was going through a very transformative year, and I ended up making friends with some other people who, like, we weren't really friends. We were kind of just occupying each other's time. And again, this is not just the friend thing, this is also like a relationship thing. Like there are some people who get in relationships just because they're bored or just to have something to do in their downtime. Like, you know, or just because that person is giving you attention and you're insecure at that time. You know? So, whatever you decide to do, whether you decide to move on or um go back, just understand your intention for doing it. Understand where you're coming from when you're doing it. If you do decide to go back, is it simply because you're comfortable with that person and you don't want to start over with anybody else, or do you genuinely feel like that relationship is beneficial to you at this moment in your life? Do you genuinely feel like you guys are meant to come back at this moment? Like you have grown, you needed to separate for a while and you have grown, and now you can come back together and again it be a beneficial relationship? Or is it just because y'all knew each other for so long and it's comfortable? Your families know each other, like the you know, the brothers and sisters know each other, like, you know what I mean? So again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just understand your intention when you're doing things. And if the intention is right, then do you, like do you. Um, and don't get stuck in again what you think you're supposed to do, or your mindset of what you're trying to stay in, you know? Yeah, and again, so this is just and I kind of touched on it a little bit. I just want to, and it relates to the last in-person discussion, community discussion that I had was about relationships. What are healthy relationships? Um, or what do healthy relationships look like? And I can say that I don't regret anything that I've done, obviously. And I'm thankful for, any past people in my life. But I will say the base of those relationships were not always healthy. They were not. And moving forward, I will not, I'm not allowing that anymore. One, I don't have the energy for it. Two, I'm just good. And um any relationship that I have from this point out, whether that be platonic or romantic, and again, if it's romantic, it would need to start off as a platonic relationship. If you don't have the patience to get to know me as a person, keep it moving, right? Because I'm not just whatever persona that you're putting in your head of me. I'm more than that. And if you don't have the patience to try to get to know that, leave me alone. Anyways, um I just I just don't have time. I don't I don't care. Like I'm good. I'm good. I'm so good. I'm so good. So anything that I add on to my life has to be just as good or better, right? So again, what I was saying, the base of all of my relationships from this point on, the intention will be because we add to one another's life. Yeah. Because we see the benefit in each other because we have something to offer one another, right? It won't be anything surface level. It won't be just simply for attraction. It won't be just simply because I'm lonely. It won't be because you're giving me attention that I'm not getting somewhere else. It won't be because I'm trying to get over somebody else. Like, it won't be any of that. Any of that. None of that. It will simply be because we both add to one another's life in some way and are going in the same direction, right? Because sometimes you come across, and I know we were just supposed to be talking about um letting go and moving on, but sometimes you come across people who you have a strong connection with, right? And sometimes you're simply just because you have a strong connection with somebody, it doesn't mean that you guys are meant to be more than friends. It's like the society that we live in is so messed up sometimes. It's like as soon as we feel that connection with somebody and then we also happen to be attracted to them, we're also like, oh my God, we're supposed to be with them. That's usually not the case. Because it's also about compatibility and where you guys are going in life and where you see if you're going in similar directions, right? Because you can come across somebody who there's an automatic, and you know what I'm talking about. Like, there are just some people, your energies are just automatically gravitated towards each other. Um, but if you don't take the time to truly get to know them, um, you may miss out on something that can just be just that, a good connection at that time. Like, you guys are probably just meant to be friends, and that's it. Because if you're not compatible in the sense where y- you don't see yourself actually building with this person, or you guys are at two totally different points in life, then now and then you end up, so if you move too fast, basically y'all have sex, right? And it was just supposed to be, y'all were just supposed to be friends, right? Because as you get to know them down the line, um you see that like, yeah, we're connected maybe on this little point, but there's nothing else there, you know? So I want to advocate more for, like, we're getting older, so I feel like it should be easier for us to do this. Like, um advocating for male, or not even male and female, just friendships between whoever it is you're attracted to as well. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, I'm attracted to the opposite sex, right? And for I just started feel like I've been able to have actual friendships with the opposite sex, because before this point, and let me say I'm 26 years old. So most guys around my age, um, I feel like before this point, they they weren't able to see, again, like, they weren't able to see past the physical or the surface level, or get over that they just want to um have sex, like, and it's just like I kind of feel sorry for guys because it's like y'all are missing out on what could be like really good friendships because you're so focused on one thing. And I will say that I am so I'm I'm able to understand men so much because I have men in my life who I'm able to have these kind of conversations with where there's nothing, it's like it's not an ulterior motive, right? So my dad is one, thank God for him. And we do have that type of relationship where we can talk about a lot of things. And so, and we don't even necessarily have to, you know, directly talk about it, but I will honestly I will just watch him. I would just watch how he is in relationships and learn from that, right? And then I have my god brother who I grew up with, and we've always been able to have amazing conversations. And again, him and I learned so much from the male standpoint from him. And so I'm just so grateful because if I only had female friends, it would um be difficult to understand the male perspective at times, right? But since I do have a strong male how do you say? Since I do have strong male influence in my life, I'm able to see their point of view a lot of the times. See their point of view and also get their perspective on situations that I may be dealing with. Um so yeah, I just want to advocate for that. Like we have to be able to we got to raise up. I know y'all probably going like, "Oh, but we honestly have to raise up our vibrations." You know, like you got to get out of that carnal mindset of sexual attraction. Like yes, that's the base thing and that might be an instant thing that comes up, but you got to be able to move past that and see past that. And when you're getting to know a woman, you got to be able to see past her. You shouldn't tell her to tone it down because I can be wearing a turtleneck and dudes will still like, it's like it doesn't matter. I just, it's just like we as women, we're just sensual beings. Like that's just, it's what it is, you know? So, but you have to mature up to the point to where you can see past that, to where you can honestly get to know people, you know, and just because you're attracted to somebody doesn't mean that you should move on that, you know, because as you get to know people, you'll be like, like you cool, you handsome or whatever. Nah, this will never work. This will never work. But we can be friends, and it's all love. It's all love. When y'all both come to that mutual understanding of like, yeah, like let's like it's so much we could learn from each other though. And the fact that we're not able to see that is kind of sad, you know? And I don't I don't know. But again, like I said, so when it comes to moving on and moving on or staying or going back to somebody, it's all about intention. So think about where your intention is of what you want to do, and is it set in the right space? Are you doing it for the right reasons? Right? All right, y'all. Well, thank you for tuning in to the first episode of season 4. I'm so excited to be back. I already got some other episodes, but I am still recording. So if you are interested in coming on the podcast, if you have any topics that you're interested in, let me know. All right, and we might can get it up there, okay? All right. So, anyways, thank you for listening. And I'm gonna see y'all next week for the next topic video. All right. All right. Oh, and I almost forgot. Remember that your refuge is in your self healing. So heal yourself to find your refuge. All right. All right. Yeah.